Welcome to the Inspection Empire Builder podcast. On this episode, we're talking about, should we make home inspections mandatory, required by law? What do you guys think? I don't know. You don't want to miss this episode. And welcome to the show. I'm so glad you tuned in today. Today, we are hanging out with John over at Clark Inspections. How you doing, man?
Hey, it's great to be here, Matt. Thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to talk today.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're here today too. You know, it's I know you. It's interesting. You've been part of IEB for about a year or two, and you've been to some of the conferences, and then we were kind of just catching up a few minutes ago before we hit record. But just for all of our audience, let's go through it again. Where are you located at?
So my business, Clark Hill Inspections, is located just outside of Boston. So we serve mostly Eastern Mass, and we have a commercial branch to our business where we do all of New England.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I do the same thing. Like I have my home inspection hits my metro area, and then with commercial, it's like, hey, baby, you buy, we fly, let's go. Like we'll go wherever, for a commercial. And how's your commercial business going?
It's been going great. I do have to credit, IEB too, to help me reframe how to think about running my business and branching the two off. I have a commercial background, which helps. It took away a little of that fear, but it's been busy. It's the phone's been ringing on both sides of the.
That's awesome. That's incredible. Yeah, we've enjoyed our commercial stuff as well. We got connected with a couple of investment groups on commercial, and one of them invests in hotels. And so we've done quite a few hotels. The hotel investor group that we're part of, we've been doing hotels all around the state, even out of state. And so it's been fun doing those big projects. And when you connect with an investor group like that, and they like you and they like your product, and you're doing a good job for them, they're like, yeah, we want you to go to Colorado, or I'm in New Mexico, so they're like, hey, we want you to go here or here or here, and they don't mind paying the extra money to get you there because they trust you and you built a relationship with them, and they're like, we know what we're going to get, and these guys are good, and they're taking care of us, and so commercial's a good business to be in.
For sure.
Yeah, I think if I could just do commercial, maybe I would do that. There's less emotion in it, which I enjoy.
I know. Yeah, we have to talk to Lance. He made that transition, and it's. I agree. I love the uniqueness of each of the projects. You really don't know as you walk into these. They're all engineered buildings. It's much more sophisticated.
Yeah, it really is. Like, once you've seen 1,000 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses, that it kind of can get a little bit routine of like, okay, I know what I'm looking at. The furnace is going to be about this size, and it's, you kind of get real used to seeing the same things over and over again. And it's fun helping people, but the commercial adds a whole nother dynamic that every building is wildly different, and none of them are unique. They're all none of them are like cookie cutter. They're all unique and custom built and built out the way they want them to. So I do love that. It's like a little bit more of a challenge too. Yeah. So you've been doing inspections now since when did you get started?
So I got started moonlighting into the industry back in 2000. So I graduated college and was a high school teacher.
Okay.
One of my first things my dad said when I came home, he's like, they don't pay teachers much, so you better find something else to do. Yeah. And he gave me a pamphlet. He's like, why don't you look into being a home inspector? You always wanted to get into real estate. And long story short, that's how I got into the business. Home team franchise in New Jersey. And that was my foot in the door.
So you did that for a number of years. When did you start your own?
So I launched my business in March of 2020, before everything hit the fan.
Like literally the month everything hit the fan.
I was preparing. I was going to do it in, January 1. I'm like, no, I'm not ready yet. Let me do this. Let me just tweak this website. All right, March 1. I'm going to do it March 1. And then I did March 1, and literally like 2 weeks later, 2.5 weeks later.
Yeah, we had 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yeah.
Wow. You started right in the thick of the crazy.
You couldn't have scripted it. It was just crazy. It was nuts, but it was, if you can weather that and then weather what happened after, I think that shows some grit, and I'm still here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I think, because like the 2000, so 2020, 2021, like initially when the pandemic hit and COVID-19 pandemic hit, then like everything kind of freaked out and froze. And it didn't take long, couple, 3 months. And then all of a sudden they lowered interest rates. And then all of a sudden the real estate market just boomed. And then of course with every time it goes up, it's got to come back down, so it boomed. And then of course we had a couple of years of boom and then a couple of years of pretty severe pullback to try to, with market correction, that happens. And now here we are in 2026. And yeah, in my opinion, I feel like the market's kind of getting back to more of a normal flow, similar to like a pre-COVID flow.
I would agree. And I think that we have the same type of experience in New England with that market.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting in that season, people had to be so competitive with their offers. They were having to have multiple bids. They were competing against, like, I mean, I don't know about, I'm in Albuquerque, so I'm in the Southwest, but I remember when a house would go on the market, they had a 15-minute window to look at the house. There'd be a line of people outside the house waiting to go in, and they had their 15-minute window when they could go look at this house. And so they would show up with their real estate agent. They would walk into the house for their 15-minute pocket, look through everything. At the end of 15 minutes, they have to walk back outside, and then they would be standing up by their car discussing what they found in the house. And if they liked the house, the realtor would be like, you better put in an offer right now, and you better be aggressive. And because it was multiple offer situations, houses were selling within a day. It was within hours. Sometimes it was an unbelievable market, and people were waiving all kinds of things, including home inspections. And I tell you, like a lot of people got burned in that process because they were so desperate to buy the house. They paid over market value, made extreme conditions, including no home inspection. And then later they find out, oh man, I bought this house and there's this massive repair that's needed.
Oh, I could bend your ear for an hour. How long do we have, Matt? But on some
Exactly.
of on some of those stories, and I would say the practice of waiving home inspections, or I would say not the practice of the the industry adoption of doing that in Massachusetts probably started around like 2010, 2012 as like a negotiating tool.
Yeah.
And literally it was just, I'd say 2013, 2014, we started to see a difference in our volume because of it. By the time 2020 came along, or 2022, right in the midst of that boom, I have a real estate attorney friend. So Massachusetts is a real estate closing state, and he said, Gallagher, uh, between January 1 and June, we've done 50 closings in our office. Two of them had inspections.
Wow.
And so, there was, and, people are bidding hundreds of $1,000s over, sight unseen. And so waiving the inspection was just like, you had to do it. I mean, everyone was just, the agents were like, we don't want you to, but you're going to have to. That's the reality, because, and I've sold many properties, and I'll tell you, you see the offers come in, the one that doesn't have an inspection, it just kind of, that's just one less friction point in the process. Let's just move on and let's go.
Yeah,
But
because you're taking the house as is, where is, no repairs, no inspections. And as a seller, you're like, well, that's way less risk for me as a seller. So when you have 5 offers come in, and if they're all extremely similar and one of them is requiring a home inspection, I'm telling you, the other ones, that one gets kicked out pretty fast.
and then, that's, and to waive an inspection as a sophisticated buyer, as someone who's a developer, it makes sense. They're in houses, they understand the cost and the risks. But for the family, the young family where the spouse is pregnant, you have 2 kids toddling you around in the open house, you've already lost out in 6 bids. You got to get them into school. Let's take this house. What do I need to get it? Okay, I'm already bidding 20, 50, 100,000 over asking, and I'll waive the inspection. Those are the people that really got hurt, because They're not familiar with construction, and they didn't realize the risks that they were taking.
Yeah, they really don't. Like, so I bought a house myself last year, and I waived the inspection, but that's because I'm an inspector, and you know what I mean. Like I walked through the house and I literally looked at the furnaces and the air conditioners. I didn't do a deep dive. I didn't need to. I was able to go, okay, these things are less than 10 years old. I think they were 6 and 8 years old. I got 2 units, fairly new. They're all running the right way, and I was able to, I brought a ladder. I was able to jump up on the roof real quick, and I know that's against the rules, and so don't tell anybody. It's just our little secret. But I set up a ladder and I jumped up on there, and I walked on the roof real quick, and I was like, this roof is fairly new. I didn't see anything too major. Just at first glance, like, it really, to me, it was like, little repairs don't scare me. But I'm an inspector. I walked through the house, looked at the whole thing, and I was like, yeah, I'm good with this. I don't need anything else. And if there's an ungrounded outlet somewhere, I'm not worried about it. Like, I can fix that. I'm pretty handy. And so, but for me to waive an inspection is very different than the typical family to waive an inspector, or like an investor, a savvy investor, or someone who is, a general contractor, or does home remodeling and repairs, and a lot of tradespeople, electricians, plumbers, and stuff like that. And for them to waive an inspection, I get it. Like, I can see how maybe they would be all right, but you have the accountant and the nurse, husband, wife, and they're waiving the inspections. Like, man, and they don't know anything about construction or remodeling, or they're very smart in what they know, but they don't know this, and so they end up waiving it, and then they find themselves in a pickle. They end up with the $38,000 repair they're looking at as soon as they move into this house, and they already not overpaid, but they're bidding more. They bid it up, and so yeah. So during that season, I remember a lot of people talking about, like, can we make home inspections mandatory? Can we force people to make the inspection? And I don't know, man, that sounds problematic.
Yeah, yes, and so I'd say, we were, as inspectors, and as we're a lot sitting on the sidelines of all these transactions that are happening in 21, 22, 23. That was that was a suggestion someone brought up, like, hey, maybe we should just make inspections mandatory. They're a public good. People need them. And but we all know, like, in even in a state like Massachusetts, no one's gonna no one's gonna bite on anything mandatory. No one wants to be told what to do. That word is it's a dirty word in politics. Is mandatory. It's a dirty word in America, I guess.
Yeah, land of the free, home of the brave.
Exactly. And we're not too far from New Hampshire, where it's live free or die,
Yeah.
is the motto of the state. So, you know, we're having these discussions. All our businesses are suffering, but what brought us to this moment was doing these post purchase inspections, and
Yeah.
seeing the harm that some of these people inherited and were feeling. I left some of these inspections with people in tears. Like, I can't believe we did this. I can't believe we made this mistake. And one of the biggest issues that's happening in Massachusetts is pyrite. It's a mineral that's in some of the concrete that's causing the foundations to crumble. And
No.
the only fix is a complete foundation replacement. So
My
you can
God.
imagine, and that occurred I was on site, and literally they closed the day before, they're washing the windows, the moving trucks are coming the next day, and they're very happy to be in their home. And I'm just outside for the first 15 minutes, like, oh my God. I had my trainee with me, and I'm like, and we sat through this course literally a month before about this issue, and we're seeing all the signs. I'm calling the engineer I have, and I'm like, "This is what I'm seeing." He goes, "Yep, that sounds like it is." Now, you can't verify until you test it, but regardless, we all know the signs.
Yeah.
They were handed a bomb, and insurance doesn't cover it. Like, I don't know
Oh,
what they're gonna do. But
how
anyway, so,
long?
like,
How long does it take for that to deteriorate?
it can start as early as 5 years after the foundation was poured, or it might start in, like, year 20, 25. It has a lot to do with the water table and the moisture in the environment.
Is that a regional thing?
It is. So, it's happened in Connecticut and Massachusetts. It hasn't happened in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, because they had standards at the quarries where they had to test what was in it. Massachusetts and Connecticut didn't. So there was a lot of this stuff that would normally be used for road construction. if it has it in there, they send it out for that. But they were just taking it and making it for foundations, and now it's going out to the market. It's a big issue, but that's one of the things that's on the heels of what we were able to accomplish with our legislation and our law that we got passed.
Yeah. So tell me more about that because, I know the conversation started with to make them mandatory, but what is it that you guys actually got done?
So I said to the group, I go, listen, let's reframe this and say, let's protect the right of someone to have a home inspection. So let's not go down the mandatory path. Let's just protect and ensure that any home buyer who wants to buy a single family home or a two family home has the right to have an inspection. And so we hired an attorney, we hired a lobbyist, we drafted a law, and we submitted it to the legislature. And then we've gotten consensus from the home inspection industry. We tried to get consensus from the greater real estate industry. A lot of people are like, you don't get laws passed, like that's not going to happen. It was this was a David versus Goliath kind of opportunity here for us to do this. And the short story is, we were able to make such a convincing argument to the senators and the state reps that we met with, because they all knew somebody who had to waive an inspection, whether it
Yeah.
was a family member, whether it was a neighbor, and they all felt like, it wasn't right. They were forced into it,
Right.
and like it's not like people were willingly like, I want to waive it. It's like, I don't want to waive it, but I'm gonna have to waive it to get the house offer accepted. And
Right.
that was the case in the transaction in the marketplace. That was unfair. And the legislature felt that way. They, at the same time, the real estate industry was dealing with the NAR settlement.
Yeah.
So they were very distracted with other things. We did try to partner with them on this law. They were, I called, I texted, I emailed, I was ghosted.
Yep.
I did have other people in Ashy, New England reach out informally. They had conversations with some of the leadership in these other realtor organizations that said, we will squash you like a bug. This will never happen. Lo and behold, we're here. We were able to get the law passed. We attached it to an omnibus bill that was about fair housing in Massachusetts. And the governor looked at it like, yep, this is fair housing. This is how we're going to get people into homes and not have them lose their shirts because they waived their right away to have an inspection.
Yeah, the people who are going to suffer the most are the first-time home buyers, the people who are trying to get into housing ownership for the first time because they don't have the experience. Because once you've owned a few houses as a homeowner, you have some experience to be able to understand what you're looking at. But a
Hmm.
first-time home buyer, they really don't know what they're looking at yet. And so those are the people who are going to pay the steepest price, which unfortunately, like that hurts all of society.
It does. And so, we could also go down we could go down a rabbit hole about how good inspections are for people and society as a whole. But
Yeah.
the simple fact is, it was the harm that was being done to a
Hmm.
pretty wide swath of people. Ultimately was unfair. The market was shifted so much because there's a shortage, there's a high demand, and this was one thing to bring back transparency
Hmm.
to the marketplace, and transparency works. Transparency is how you have a fair market.
Well, I can't tell you how many times as an inspector we found like major defects in a house that the seller was, actively trying to cover up. They're trying to hide these defects.
No
And
way. They didn't
I
put the
know it's
box in
hard to
front of that
imagine.
foundation crack?
I'm not going to name any names, right? But yeah, like they're actively, they know they have a problem. They don't disclose it, and they're doing what they can to try to cover this thing up. And as inspectors, we find those things all the time. So without an inspection, buyers are going to get duped and they're going to get themselves into hot water. I think it's incredible. So with for a right to a home inspection, that means that they can't say no to a home inspection. Is that what explain the difference?
Yeah, so in Massachusetts, it's a two-part offer state. So when you buying a house, you make an offer. That's the first contract. That's where all your contingencies are. Your mortgage contingency, home inspection contingency. And then the seller accepts it. And then once like they go through the contingency period, whether it's a home inspection, whether it's like 1 or 2 days, then they sign a purchase and sale agreement. And that's ironclad. Like nothing changes in mass, very little changes once that purchase and sale agreement is signed. And then the deal sails through. So, in order to kind of deal with how this process works in mass, the law was written that you as a buyer can't waive your inspection in order to kind of get ahead of other buyers.
I
So
see.
the seller, so you can't directly or indirectly indicate that you're going to waive your inspection. Now you don't have to do it, but you have to present your offer with all the other terms. And once the seller accepts it, you'll let them know whether you're going to have the inspection.
Got it. Okay. And have you seen a difference in the market since then?
Yes. I mean, it has been, I'd say there's still people who aren't getting them, which is, it's fine. It's more their choice, but they're no longer really trying to use that as a way to get ahead of other buyers. So the house is selling on other competitive terms. And lo and behold, most people are getting an inspection because they have the ability to now, which I think
Right.
is a good thing.
No, I think it's a good thing too. I think it's a really good thing. You're making a massive purchase. You're spending hundreds of thousands at a minimum, millions, on the higher end, of dollars. Like, yeah, spend a little money and get and inspect it is important, I think. It's like buying a used car, you should probably take it to the mechanic and have them look at it real quick, you know, to kind of
Right?
know what you're getting into. Yeah. And now the newer cars that are on the dealership lots, that are 1 or 2 years old, you're probably not too concerned about. But on those older cars, yeah, you should probably get that thing looked at. You don't know what you're buying. You
I would even say, that car was engineered. Most of these homes aren't,
That's
most of
true. Yeah.
that. So they're field built, and yeah, they used codes, they used a general recipe book, but they're field built. They're not an engineered product. And so, that's one of the things we would talk to people in the legislature about. It's like, listen, there can be a lot wrong, a lot of quality control issues that are not like reviewed during the construction process. So if it is new or if it isn't, there's a lot of things that can happen that can go wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Wow, that's really interesting. So have you seen other states starting to follow suit? Is your state the first one to do this?
We are the first in the nation to
Okay.
do it. And I think that was the legislators were paused at that. And no one wants to be the first. They didn't want
Right.
to step into the market because they were told by other players in the market in the real estate industry that this is going to ruin the industry. You're going to cause a problem with selling homes. It hasn't.
Right.
But I know New York has filed a bill similar to this. We've had other members, other home inspectors from other states reach out, Ohio, Hawaii, to ask questions. And for that end, as a teacher of history, I am more than willing to share what we did, our strategies that we used. The overall lesson is we collaborated as an industry with the other home inspectors, people who are my competitors. And we kind of put those things aside. We shared ideas freely. And I'm willing to, myself and some of the other people who worked on this, I'm more than willing to be able to hand some of those things over to you guys if this is something you want to pursue in your own state.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. I know I've heard rumblings in other states of people trying to put something like this together. I think it's important. I think it is like a buyer protection type thing. And if they don't want it, they don't have to have it. But I think mandatory is bad. But I think I agree with the way you guys presented it and phrased it and put it together. I think that's a really great thing. It protects people or gives them the option to be able to protect themselves is what it comes down to, right? So that option's not removed from them because of the competition or whatever it might be. Yeah.
I think that's where the issue was. This is about fairness, and
Hmm.
very few people were willing to like really want to waive it, but they all did. A majority did because of the market conditions. So it's consumer protection. That's how we framed the issue, and that was a winning strategy for us.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really smart. I think the way you approached it is really good. And I think it's the best blend. Like you don't have to if you don't want to, but you have the right to at least have this. I think that's incredible. In my market, people were waiving inspections here and there, but not at the level that they were up in the New England area. I talked with a number of inspectors over the years from up there, and they said that was a big thing. People were they were waiving inspections on a very regular basis. Whereas in New Mexico, and no Arizona, I feel like Texas didn't really waive them as much. And those are those markets. There's just certain cities. Some cities had a culture of that. It's interesting how the real estate culture changes so much from market to market across our country.
I would agree, and it's dynamic. Like that
Yeah,
culture does evolve too. It's really a localized. It's really
it's very local. Absolutely. In my market, everybody gets a sewer scope. Like a sewer scope in your real estate transaction is like commonplace. That's very, very normal. In fact, most home inspections we do have a sewer scope as an ancillary. It's by and far the large. It's like 80 something percent of our tickets have a sewer scope on them. And
that's great.
yeah, I think it's great. You spend $150 because if that sewer line screwed up, that could cost you $10,000 or more. And so, it's worth it for that to have the sewer scope done. But culturally, in my market, that's very normal, and so everybody kind of does it. They don't really think too much about it because it's kind of become that way here. But I hear in other markets where it's not as common for people to do a sewer scope.
It's not common where we are. I know there are some. I'm in favor of them, but there are some other inspectors who are my peers that are trying to roll it out as well. But we're meeting resistance because like in the transaction, the real estate professional is the person who establishes all the trust. And until I think more inspectors in my market start offering it, I think it will slowly become commonplace
Yep.
because we have a lot of old sewer mains in
Yeah, I
the
bet you
Boston
do.
area, but it hasn't taken hold here yet. But being a member of IEB, it was great to talk to people from these other markets to see what other inspectors are doing, to see how things are changing, and makes me ask the question like, well, why not? Is it us? Is it fear? Is it like what needs to be done next to take that next step to service our clients, to build our business?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was just talking with a guy up in Portland, Oregon area. Most houses have a mold inspection on them because it's so humid and mold is so prevalent, and but here in New Mexico, we're in the desert. It's not as common of an issue. And so we don't really do a lot of mold inspections. And, regionally, you see different things. Solar panels. Solar panels are huge in the Southwest. They've got 300 days of sunshine. It's a big deal here. We see solar panels every single day. And so we're doing advanced solar inspections now. And whereas in other parts of the country, you don't see solar as much because they don't get as much sunshine as we do. And real estate is so regional. Here we have flat roof houses because we're in the Southwest, that kind of adobe looking house. And so you get up on like we deal with all the commercial roofing products that are out there are on residential houses here. So we have lots of houses with tar and gravel roofing or TPO roofing, bitumen, like the rollout torch down style. We have residential here with those types of roofing, spray foam, all the stuff that you would have on a commercial building. We see that on residential here every single day, as well as we have pitched roofs. So we have shingles and pro panel and, tile and whatever else all the different products are out there. But I know like in other parts of the country, you couldn't have a flat roof because it snows so much. It would just cave the house.
It's I mean what a great launch pad into doing commercial work because you have all those things in front of you on also a daily basis.
Yeah. Package units, AC package units, like HVAC package units. So we'll have a flat roof house that's a tar and gravel or a TPO, and they'll have package units on the roof like you'd see in a commercial property. And so they'll have like a smaller package units on the roof of residential property here. Very common to see here in this part of the country. So then jumping from residential to commercial for us wasn't hard because we already deal with that roofing every day. And we see package units every day. Now the commercial ones are larger, but the rooftop units, like we deal with a flat roof and a rooftop unit every day in residential. So crossing over, like, yeah, there's this bigger scale of stuff. But yeah, we have to know all that stuff in and out.
For sure. Right.
Yeah.
We're experts in finding problems, and that's why I think you guys and anyone listening, it's really take a look into commercial. because
Absolutely.
you
Yeah,
do
it's
it.
worth it. Yeah, the dollar is better. You make better more money on the commercial, and also it's just a much better experience on the inspector side. You're it's a dollars and cents. It's an investment. It's not an emotional thing. Little Johnny's not going to sleep in that room over there, and I'm not going to be eating dinner with my wife in here. It's not an emotional thing. It's definitely an investment, and so it's a different mentality for sure. Yeah. So okay. So it's interesting to see how like the commercial or the residential inspection process is a little different because of the ancillary services that are common or not as common in different regions. You guys had the waiving inspections as very common up in your region, and it was in some markets it wasn't as common for them to be waived. Although everybody saw it during the COVID years for sure, inspections
Hmm.
being waived. I love what you guys did and coming together and to be able to uh, put that legislation together. What was that like working with lobbyists and attorneys? And yeah,
That's a
it
great
sounds,
question.
yeah.
It was I found it somewhat exciting, but the end piece is that I felt better about our democracy, the way it works, you
Oh, all
know?
right.
So I think if anything, it's like, so many of us are disengaged. It seems like it's not as well beyond an arm's reach to kind of get involved in that legislative process. But
Mm-hmm.
I'd say most of the senators and the reps that I talked to were, at least to me, they seemed that they were there for the right reasons. They wanted to help people and they were willing to listen. And that doesn't seem to be what you would peg as a descriptor for most politicians, especially on the national side.
Well, yeah, because we're watching what CNN and Fox and whatever all the different major brands are, right? And there's they spin it all so politically charged that they make it all sound like every politician's like the son of the devil or something, like just terrible human beings. And yeah, they crawled out of some like dark pit from hell to come up and rule our country. But that's not really. They're probably not like that, but
But anyways,
that's the image of it. It's like these guys are all terrible people.
oh, for sure. And believe me, we got some eye rolls too from like some of the other inspectors. Like, you're gonna do what? You're gonna spend money at the lobbyists. The lobbyists are these, and it was
Yep.
I mean, again, politics is a dirty business, and we are, the Massachusetts inspectors are now, a little bit more involved. We have a voice on the hill. We do see the uglier side of it, but my overall impression was, I was thankful that we worked with the people that we did, and that the legislators, and there's 40 senators in Massachusetts, 40-0 they voted for this bill
Wow.
to be included,
Wow. Like unanimous.
unanimous. So like that, to me speaks to the power of what we were saying, the issue that was at hand. And I was talking to one senator, a representative, and I go, hey, great conversation. I go, I just feel like this is David Goliath. Here I am. There's maybe 400 licensed active practicing inspectors in Mass. There are, 29,000 realtors, and their lobby spends thousands of dollars. We've never given a dime. I mean, we're just here asking for something. And
Yeah.
he leaned over the table. He goes, fuck them. He goes, this is right. And I know
Right.
some of my constituents have been hurt, and I'm going to support this. And I literally almost dropped my coffee, like, wow. Anyway, so
Right.
that
But
was
everybody has a story. Everybody has a story of somebody who waived an inspection, got into this house, and realized what kind of nightmare they got into. And they
yes.
didn't waive the inspection because they wanted to. They waived it because they felt pressured to because of market conditions. Yeah, I think it's such a good thing. I know there are people listening today that are working on this or they want to work on something like this. I'd love for them to get in touch with you. You've already said you'd be willing to help out. Like what's a great way for someone to get in touch with you if they have questions about anything at all, inspection or especially this related?
Sure. So I do have an Instagram. You look under Clark Hill Inspections on Instagram. I would say I'd be not afraid to throw out my phone number there. You can send me a text. It's 617-92-0739. And in my website, it's clarkhillinspections.com. You can find me there. You can send in a message request. Again, we're looking to spread the knowledge, to help, and if
Yeah.
we can be that for some group, for some other inspectors, would love to extend that help.
Man, well, John, thank you so much for being here today and being on the show. This was super informative, and I love what you guys got done. And I hope you can help other states and other inspectors figure out how to get it done in their states too, man. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Matt. This was great. I really enjoyed my time speaking with you today, and this is I'm an active listener, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hey, I look forward to seeing you at the next IEB event.
Sounds good. I will be there.